Great setup on the, what we can, I think, call a dynasty in Oregon as they get ready. 18 women's teams, all 18 teams in the Big Ten have a women's cross-country team. We talked earlier about how they shortened the space in the box to try to make it more fair, as there are a lot of dips and valleys on the start here.
Yeah, that's right, Dean. You know, especially because, as you mentioned, we have more teams out here for this women's race. But you can see they still have a ton of room in these boxes. Even though they shrunk them by about 4 feet, they still have enough room to put about 3 or 4 women. Most teams appear to have 4 women out on the front to have a clear, direct path. You know, of course, they have 500, 600 meters almost of a long straightaway, which gives these athletes a ton of space to just sort of smooth things out and get into their, you know, running rhythm before they make the first turn.
Great to hear Sydney talk about Shalane Flanagan. She ran at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. She won the New York Marathon, and I used to see her running all over the place, mile after mile after mile, and I would give her what you would call a good honk, saluting her incredible heart. What an incredible runner, and now what a great leader for the Oregon women.
You know, I mean, just as, you know, Sydney mentioned that Shalane looked up to her, I think any young runner definitely looked up to Shalane Flanagan. I know that I would, you know, sit on the couch on a Sunday morning and love to watch her run in a lot of those World Marathon majors.
The Big Ten Women's Cross Country Championships for 2025 are underway on the Big Ten Network here in East Lansing. What a gorgeous setting as you see the start here. About 400 yards up high. Oh, they called it back. They did call it back. We saw this with the men, I believe, last year in Illinois, Sarah, and they're going to bring all of the teams back. I got to believe in your illustrious career, this happened to you every once in a while. How do you reset physically and emotionally?
You know what, Dean? I've had it happen on the track, which I think is, you know, really common. You know, we're on a super tight start line and people are just moving and wiggling. I've never had it happen in a cross-country race, and so especially for a field this big, you know, it's sort of hard to tell, did someone fall? You know, the rule is if someone falls due to contact within the first 100 meters, they have to call it back. There also could have been a timing issue. Maybe the timer, you know, didn't get started or something like that. We're waiting on official word what happened here, but they're going to give these athletes, you know, plenty of time to make their way back. As you can see, some are jogging over and some are walking over. They're certainly going to give these athletes a few minutes to just sort of get settled and take a couple deep breaths before we get going again.
All right, interesting development here for the 2025 Big Ten Women's Cross Country Championship, is they got about 100 yards out there just about before they decided to call the back. We're going to go back to the start and listen into the gun. So it was kind of a double gunshot right there. So a little bit of confusion causes them to bring it back.
Yeah, certainly a few women could have maybe heard that second gun and maybe didn't get off the line. You know, the start did look pretty clean though. So, you know, it's just great that they gave them, you know, a couple minutes to sort of get their bearings back again before they get going underway with this second Big Ten championship race.
Sydney has a little bit more information on why we'll have this restart. Sydney, what do you got?
Sarah, you guessed it right. We had a few women go down. They made contact and they fell within the first 100 meters, therefore bringing everyone back to make sure they have a fair chance at the start.
Thank you, Sydney. $6,000 meters, they reset. 2025 Big Ten Women's Cross Country Championship, which, by the way, will count toward the Big Ten All-State Women's Championship Series. We'll have more on that during this race. And we're underway. This time, it looks like it's going to be clean. Everybody on their feet. 2025 Big Ten Cross Country Championships, take 2, but this one looks like it's going to stick.
Yeah, you can see a couple of teams really taking a hard left and just sort of starting to come into the middle of the course here, but we may have had another athlete go down.
Looks like they are going to race on, though, packed together tight. That's the lower left part of your screen here. This is the restart where 2 people went down. They're going to keep on going. We'll race on.
So these women are still making their way down this super long straightaway. It's about 600 meters before they take their first turn. They're going to head left, where they'll do a couple out and backs almost. A couple of tight turns. This is a slight incline here up this long stretch here. You can see the athletes just have so much room to run here on this course as they sort of start to get settled into their pace here.
Let's take a look at the course map. Sarah Kroll, walk us through it, run us through it, show us the map.
As we mentioned, long straightaway here, and then on the side portion of the course, a lot of really tight turns. After 2,000 meters, those athletes will head to a pretty quiet portion of the course, but what makes this course different from the men's after that first loop is they make that left turn and make their way back towards the finish line, which is just beyond the start line again. As we've talked about, though, there's no major points of difficulty on this course. Of course, there's, a few rolling hills and a few tight turns, but it's not like, a few years ago we were at the U of M golf course for the Big Ten Championships, and that was a really hilly golf course. And so this is certainly a very fair course. It has been a little wet here in the state of Michigan this past week, but with how cold it's been, I assume the course is very firm. We saw some fast times on the men's side, which I expect to see from the women's side as well.
We have quite a few runners that finished in the top 10 last year. Of course, Shalon won it, finishing in 4th. Rachel Forsythe out of Michigan State, finishing in 5th. It was Florence Karen out of Penn State in 6th. Chloe Forrester for the Washington Huskies. So a lot of great runners returning, including Mia Barnett, who finished in 7th, and then in 9th, Julia David-Smith out of Washington, as you see the lineups on the left side of your Big Ten Network screen.
We've got an Oregon duck about 10 meters out front here, making a pretty big push. She's got a teammate coming up behind here.
Your leader is Juliet Cherubet from Oregon. Just a couple of second advantage.
Right now we've got Juliet Cherubet, the junior transfer from Texas out of Eldoret, Canada. Now, Shalane told us in an interview earlier this week that she's the highest placing finisher that the Ducks have coming back from the NCAA championships. She led the way for the Oregon women at the Gans Creek Classic. She placed 5th there, ran a blazing fast time of 19:20. It's hard to imagine how far NCAA cross country has come. In the last decade, that 19:20 gets you 5th place, but we talked about it, these Oregon women are a really deep squad.
So Juliet and Diana at 1, 2, Shalon in 4th, and then Florence Karen for Penn State in the top 4 as well.
Well, these women, they're almost 1/3 of the way already into this race. Ran about 3:08 to 3:11 for our top 4 athletes through the first kilometer. So certainly very fast, but well within the wheelhouse of what we would expect from the caliber of these women up front. Really cool to see Florence Karen, the senior from Penn State, mixing it up with these women. She's had a pretty stellar last year and a half for the Nittany Lions. An incredible 2024-2025 season. She was 5th in this race last year. She finished 19th at the NCAA's in cross country. Multiple-time NCAA qualifier in indoor and outdoor championships. And if you remember the 2024 outdoor championships that were hosted by the University of Michigan, she took home 2 Big Ten individual titles over the course of that weekend in both 5,000 and 10,000 meters. So a really storied athlete here for the Nittany Lions, who just has a ton of experience, especially in winning races.
5:10 for our lead pack of ladies through the first mile. 5:10 for the leaders.
We've got a lead pack of 4 women out here. The announcers are telling us they went through that first mile in about 5:10, which means they're probably running about roughly 16 flat, 16:10 pace through 5,000 meters. So certainly a very honest pace. We've got about 20 meters until we see our chase pack coming into view here. And it looks like there's about 8 to 10 women there as well. That's Mia Cochran out of Washington, Claire Zuby from Penn State, Rachel Forsyth from Michigan State, a couple more Oregon Ducks, Dahlia Frias, and Mia Barnett, who also makes her season debut for the Oregon Ducks. Another one of those 1,500-meter athletes that Shalane coached at the World Championships. Mia Barnett represented Sweden there. And they are heading over that 2K split there. They're going to be right in the 6:30 range through 2,000 meters. That means we're on about 19:30 pace for 6,000 meters, which would absolutely shatter the course record here if they were able to maintain that rhythm.
See, they're 2.2 Ks, and again, the map will be in your lower right-hand screen of your Big Ten Network. And then, of course, you'll see the split times on the left side. Sarah, as an MSU grad, you know it takes a village to put on this event. We did want to thank the Spartan staff, including Seth Kessler. Also, a huge thanks from Seth to Andy and Tim Marsh, our course engineers, and all of the support from Playmakers Running Store, Megan Zemer and Barbara Powers from the Lansing Sports Commission, and their awesome contributions to the event. Sarah Brushver, Elise Packard, and Mackenzie Gardalescu are the championship managers. Thanks to one of all and all the volunteers and everybody that makes this happen.
Yeah, Dean, I can't say enough good things about Playmakers. They just dive into the running community here, not only just for Michigan State, but in the greater Lansing area. They do a wonderful job putting on the Spartan Invitational. That's earlier in September. And I just have fond memories of so many people from Playmakers coming in, truly just making an impact here.
The Ducks with a massive lead as they look to go 2 for 2, 2 years in the Big Ten and 2 titles.
Now keep in mind, we have 6 teams currently ranked inside the top 24 in the NCAA here on the women's side. Of course, that's led by the Oregon Ducks. They're currently ranked 4th in the NCAA. The Northwestern women are inside that top 10. They're ranked 8th, coached by Jill Miller in her 7th season. Several women within that Northwestern lineup are pretty interchangeable. They've had a different top finisher at all of the races so far that they've contested this season. That just shows the depth of their program. And the Penn State women, who are through the 2,000 meters in 2nd place overall in the team standings, they're ranked 12th in the NCAA. I was in the elevator last night with Coach John Gondak, and he seemed really, really excited for the women to come out here and hopefully put on a show today. He believed that they were poised and ready, and we can see that with Florence Karen hanging tough here with this trio of Oregon Ducks up front.
Meanwhile, I like the pocket that last year's winner Shalane has found herself in right now. Now she just leaves the pocket for a moment, but she's in a good spot.
Yeah, they definitely were working to try to take the tangent. That was a really smart move there. You always want to take the shortest line to the turn, especially if you have space to run. But if you guys remember, if you tuned into our championships from 2024, Shalane and Maddie Elmore, the duo of Oregon Ducks went out and just hammered that race and ran side by side pretty much all the way to the finish line. And so we've got a few more athletes up here at the front with the chase pack not too far behind. But Dean, if we're just talking about what's on paper, this is pretty much what we expected to see here.
It's exactly what was displayed in the open. Three Oregon superstars, and then of course Florence Karen and Rachel Forsythe finds herself in fifth.
Yeah, Rachel Forsythe just had a phenomenal true freshman year for the Michigan State Spartans last year. She broke the U20 Canadian national record in both the indoor 3,000 meter and outdoor 5K. She ran 15:30. That's pretty incredible for likely an 18-year-old. We just know she's got a lot of impressive running ahead of her in her career as a Michigan State Spartan, returning Big Ten Freshman of the Year, and so leading that chase pack here. But if we look at our current team standings through 3.3K, there are count it, five Oregon women inside the top 9.
Amazing. Yeah, just amazing. When you look at the Big Ten Athletes of the Week, there are a couple that won it twice. Florence Karen won it twice, and Rose Coates out of Maryland also won it twice. Cheritich from Oregon was named a Big Ten Athlete of the Week. Shalane Flanagan is out there coaching all of these Oregon superstars, and Sydney Supley heard some of what Shalane had to say. What do you got, Sydney?
Coach Flanagan kept echoing to her runners one another, and that's the best part about having so many talented runners, is they are using each other to set the pace. If they can continue to do that, good things will happen.
We did get a chance to catch up with Coach Flanagan this past week, and one thing I absolutely loved that she said was, winning is a habit, and I want my team to be addicted to winning. And coming in, as her first year as a head coach and first year in the Big Ten title, to come home and take away that title. But this is different. What we see happening here today is different than what we saw last year. This is domination. I mean, if they are able to maintain these finishing places, for the next second half of this race, this is just going to show that maybe Oregon is better than just, winning the team. Of course, that's a stepping stone here today, but they could be contending to win an NCAA title.
So, Florence Karen from Penn State, the Canadian who finished 5th a year ago, 15th at the Nutty, took 2nd in the 10K, 3rd in the 5K, trying to stay with the Three Ducks.
And it looks like we have Annika Sisson from Oregon, trying to reel in this chase group here.
You can see Turan in the white over blue of the Nittany Lions.
We can see our 4th, 5th, and 6th athletes here. We've got Annika Sisson, Rachel Forsythe, Dahlia Frias, and Rose Coates, the junior from Maryland, also trying to mix it up inside the top 10 here. But our top 4 leaders have not changed. We see a couple of lookbacks. They've just crossed 4,000 meters. This is where the race really starts. Everyone is hurting at this point in the race, especially with how fast and aggressive this pace is. And these women are going to be starting to come by our broadcast tent here, and this field is really spread out here.
Worth mentioning while we talk about the Oregon Ducks for a good reason. They won the Big Ten title last year. They finished 5th in the NCAAs. There are 6 teams ranked nationally on the Big Ten women's side for cross country, along with Oregon, Northwestern, Penn State, Wisconsin, Washington, and your alma mater, Michigan State.
Yeah, the depth of the Big Ten is just unreal. They've really established themselves, which is not surprising because there are so many teams that are in the Big Ten Conference that are in the Midwest. And when I think of cross-country season, I just think of the Midwest. We're tough, we're gritty, we run through bad weather and cold temps. And that's what I love about cross-country, is it's just a true testament to just how gritty can you be on the day. And we see Diana starting to make a gap on this field. Diana Cheritich, the freshman from Canada, she took home the Bill Dellinger Invitational at her home course, running a blazing fast time of 18:58. Now, Dean, 18:58 to break 19 minutes at any point in a cross-country season is pretty phenomenal, but to do it in your very first race of the season just shows the caliber of her as an athlete. And with about 1.5 K to go in this race, she's laying down the hammer. She's going to utilize a little bit of a downhill here to see if she can try to gap this field a little bit with a few more lookbacks over her shoulder.
Yeah, she gave 3 looked backs, Sarah. Good call right there as she made that turn. As we may have mentioned earlier, they added a few more turns. This coming from the Michigan State coaching staff during some interviews this week. And they added it to really help the crowd enjoy a little bit more closer sightings of the runners.
Right now, though, it is all Cheretich, looking like she has probably at least a 40 to 50 meter lead on her teammate, Juliet Cherabit, with Shalon Ayildes, our defending champion, a few meters back from her. Florence Karen still sitting in 4th place. We've got another Oregon Duck who's moved up into 5th. That's Dahlia Frias, the junior from Oregon.
Oregon 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, and 9. Just amazing. With Karen from Penn State at 4th, Forsyth from Michigan State at 6th. Rose Coates, who I mentioned twice, named Big Ten Athlete of the Week, in 8th for the Terps. But looking strong is the freshman from Oregon, who looks like she has what it takes to close this thing out, Sarah. I don't know if that was too early, but with less than 1K to go, she looks pretty comfortable.
She does, and you know what? Her gap is lengthening a little bit on this field. She really pressed that slight uphill there. She'll get another downhill here, but this is where the course differentiates a little bit from the men's here. They're going to do a small loop where they head back by the start line before she gets inside that final half a mile here, but we're very close. We're already over 5,000 meters. Shortly, she'll be making her way to head back towards the finish line.
Oregon, who won the Big Ten title last year at 33 points. Check this out. They are sitting at a remarkable 18 at the moment. The record is 22. The Ducks are at 18.
Yeah, I mean, that's just incredibly impressive. I want to say I think my team scored 24 points my last year, the year we won NCAAs, and even I thought that was insanely low. I'm sure Wisconsin has a stat in their arsenal somewhere where they scored a perfect score, 15 points, but 18 points is darn near a perfect score of 15, and if they can hold that pace through the final kilometer, Oregon is going to show how good they are, of course, in the Big Ten Conference, but nationally as well.
See the runners for Penn State led by their senior, Florence Karen. Oregon right now at 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, and 10.
I want to point out how well Washington is running. They're currently ranked 20th in the NCAA. They did take home 2nd place in the team race last year, but they are ahead of 3 teams right now who are currently ranked ahead of them in the NCAA. But expect Penn State and Northwestern to keep climbing.
So the Oregon freshman, who knows, maybe she can do what Bob Liking did on the men's side, win 4 consecutive, as she is looking to take home the Big Ten women's title in her first race. And 1913, by the way, is the record. So we're at 1903. That 1913 record was set last year. Doesn't look like Diana's going to quite get it, but she is going to get a Big Ten title, something you know all about, Sarah Crow, as what a great effort by Cheretich.
Yeah, I mean, just a really commanding run. And to be honest, the tail end of the race here, she doesn't even look phased. She's got a huge lead. She's coming home first points for the Duck right now. We see a few Ducks coming up behind her as well.
Cheritich.
Everything continues to fall in order like we had at 500.
We're going to go 1, 2, 3 as long as Shalon doesn't get caught. Juliet in second. Shalon wearing the sunglasses in third. Great effort by Florence Karen. Frias from Oregon. A little close there by Michigan State, but it will be Oregon that finishes in fifth. 1, 2, 3, and 5 for the Ducks.
Really impressive. We'll look for that fifth score. It looks like it's going to be Mia Barnett coming in to round out the scoring for the Ducks. They're going to go 1, 2, 3, 5, and 7.
And a new record, unofficially, we believe it's a new record, 18 points.
Now, Dean, I don't know for sure. I can't say for sure, but I would imagine that's at least the course record here. That's a really, really impressive time to run in the 1930s on this course. Just missed our championship record, but we likely will have a new championship team record here.
Well, and you talked about Northwestern being the team that could finish second, but Penn State right now unofficially sitting at 78. As you see the team standings juggling a bit, but the individual, just a whole lot of Oregon Ducks. 5 in the top 7. 6 in the top 9.
Just the only word I can come up with is domination, right? To have a spread too of, I guess it is about 45 seconds, but when you have an athlete who, is just of the caliber of Diana and Juliet and Shalon out front, to still have, your entire 5 or 6 basically under 2015 is just incredible.
Let's talk a little bit of Penn State right now, because unofficially they're sitting in second place at 78.
Yeah, we talked about how they did come in ranked just outside of the top 10 in 12th overall in the NCAA. Coach Gondak, got them ready. They ran really, really well late, led by Florence Karen.
We have the winner of the Women's Cross Country Championship for the Big Ten, standing by with Sydney Supley.